God knew gods and goddesses, kings and queens. God knew it was God and you, the Nazi greeting, family allies, and enemies was had. It's a double right. So look, man. So my homeboy pushing this line, right? And I'm like, man, you ain't never found no tribe of black Indians. We're the tribe of black Indians. Man, he said that the white folks lied. And then they said that we was Africans and they said that they was the Indians. So I'm like, okay, look. Normally when white people lie, they put themselves in there. So all of a sudden, when it came to Indians, they want to lie and say that it was them and not. That don't make sense. So he sent me the Chitimacha tribe. Send me a picture of the Chitimacha. So what I want to do is I want to read this and then I want to go through what I have here. Because what I have here is showing some things, and this is like all the compiled information is not them lying. It's the truth that the Africans don't exist amongst they exist amongst the Chitimacha, but they're not the Chitimacha. I mean, they're not black. Chitimacha, Native American, maintained a reservation in South Louisiana in the town of Charlton. While the history dates back some 6,000 years, there is a dark secret that few have ever heard. For the past 100 years, the Chitimacha tribe of Louisiana has refused to acknowledge the existence of its black members. It says this group calls themselves the Lost Tribe. Prior to the 1900s, the tribe was racially diverse. Tribal members were a mixture of Chattahoochee, Creole, Black, and white ancestry. During the period of racial segregation in the United States, some members of Native American and white began to feel superior to those of Black ancestry. This feeling of superiority came to a head when the black tribal members were purged from the tribe. This process began in sometime after 1904. So we think around 1904, here go the purging of the Africans out of these tribes. Now we ain't talking about the Aboriginals, we're talking about the Africans. By 1919, all tribal members with black ancestry, because when they say black, they talking about African, were evicted from Chattahoochee reservations in Carrollton, Louisiana. The property was seized and turned over to other tribal members. Those who remained in the tribe were forbidden to interact with the ostracized former members. To do so would threaten their own membership. In 1920, anti-miscegenation laws banned marriages between Native Americans and African Americans. Now, that right there inside of the document itself, let you know that the black is synonymous with African American in the state of Louisiana. The Chattahoochee tribe of Louisiana could now ensure a superior race from says free of tribal membership with black ancestry. Ethnic cleansing. All black Chattahoochee. All right. It says the sins of the past are still felt today. In 2013, the disenfranchisement group decided to fight back against the blatant acts of racism that led to be carried out on their ancestors. The Lost Tribe is on the mission to restore. No, the Lost Tribe is on a mission to restore their heritage. The goal is simple. The Lost Tribe wants to accept. It says wants acceptance and recognition by the Chitimacha tribe. And it says, that was it. It says of Louisiana for they are Native Americans. Okay. Now, this is a timeline. Now I'm going to read through this timeline real quick. 1900s. The census showed tribal membership of black ancestry residing on the Chitimacha Reservation in Charlton, Louisiana. 1903. Chitimacha tribal census contains the names of black Chitimacha families. 1904 through 1919, the Chattahoochee tribe of Louisiana purged all members of black ancestries from the tribe. Former members were shunned and evicted from the reservation. 1920, Louisiana enacted an anti-miscegenation law that banned marriages between Native Americans and African Americans. 1926, annuity pay rolls exclude all Chattahoochees with black ancestry. 1959, Reserve Chattahoochee Tribal Census excludes all Chattahoochees with black ancestry. 1970-1971, the Chattahoochee Constitution is submitted and approved by the federal government. Tribal membership was based on the 1926 annuity rolls and 1959 revised tribal census. Present, the lost tribe continues to fight and reclaim their rightful Chitimacha heritage. Okay, let me see how much time I got, because I'm going to talk about this. Now, this one right here is Indian country, or Louisiana tribes turning a blind eye to racism. The first time I stepped foot on Chitimacha Reservation in Louisiana, it was 1990s. Prior to this, I had seen pictures of the tribal members attending school and boarding schools, and some of the members of my own tribe, and many others. It says one striking image is I recall of a beautiful low-hanging tree that looked something out of an old movie of the Old South, of some movie of the Old South. I would find that later that the Old South symbolism I had perceived had not too far north, was not too far north from the Chitimacha racism. And I had experience with the gene band of the the Choctaw Indians. It says Chitimacha racism, ugliness, and accompanied exclusion had been infesting some Louisiana tribes for many generations. I had had skipped the line. I had to go back. All right, it says social, legal, and prohibitions. So basically, it says they want to discourage anybody from intermarriage with blacks and to distance themselves from relatives who were perceived to have black blood, Indians who were attempting to shield themselves as best as they could from further discrimination by the whites that surrounded them by removing their kin with attachment to the black community, and intermarrying with white individuals, many of whom attempted to reduce the levels of prejudice of hostilities that they had experienced with the intrusion of the whites of their land. The historical the reality has had devastating effects on the indigenous families and intermarried with black people among numerous tribes in the nation. The Chitimacha are the poster child for discrimination. And they got some things about in the book. The book is Louisiana, a Guide of the State. It's crazy because I said the book, then I read the book. It says, quote, among the Chattahoochee, marriages with Negroes is forbidden, offenders being ostracized and their names permanently removed from the tribal registry. On the other hand, the tribe does not object to intermarriage with Caucasian, end quote. All right. Now let me go into this right here because it get real beefy. Okay, so good marriages and bad marriages. So if you marry, they say if you marry between refers to a legion of supporting progressive marriages of Indian of white men or later. Now the term camp Indian, they don't want you marrying Indian or white. You can marry a self-supporting progressive Indian or white man. That's a good marriage. A bad marriage is camp Indians or African Americans. To further support, now this is a name right here. I don't know if y'all can see that name. Y'all might want to try to look that name up. They called it private. And then it says of a school, there was a Chitimacha Indian school. I'm going to show y'all that. And it says the federal government classified them as Indians in an Indian school, but they classified themselves much more minutely. English speaking, Creek speaking, Kiowa speaking speakers, Eastern tribes, and Western tribes. Full blooded, mixed blooded, beware the taint of African blood. The term African is actually in there. So the Aboriginals won't be like, you putting that in there. Now, there's some right here. This term right here, I want y'all to check this out. This term says, of course, prior to the boarding school of the attendants, the advent of Jim Crow feather. So the Jim Crow feather is one thing that I want to look at. Now, John Paul Darden popped up in this right here, and he got mixed Chattahoochee black descendants, but I'm going to leave it right there, and I want to go through some of these. Now, how do I know that the Chattahoochee is not black? Let me cut this on. I know that the Chattahoochee is not black because right here, one, I'm gonna go through this recording because the Chattahoochee language was lost, and they said that they end up getting a letter in this video to Chattahoochee language. Audio tapes of recordings made in the early 1930s that contained the voices of Delphine Stoof and a tribal chief named Benjamin Fall.
A linguist by the name of Morris Swadesh had recorded 200 hours of the elderly voices speaking their native language. And there were thousands of pages of notes that spelled out Chitimacha words and the English translation. After the amazing discovery of the old recordings and the notes.
So you could go look at what they have, the Chitimacha, the languages, and then you could also see that the people they said that the languages was for. Now this is the school. They got the however you pronounce that right there, the Chakaloka. But when you start looking at the people that's in there, you know how the Indians went through a school when it was like, oh, they killed an Indian, spare the person. So they was trying to kill the Indian within a person, and they actually start to do that even throughout the times with a lot of people. So right here you see 1963. You see them in their original Indian garb, and a lot of this is them. Let's continue. Now this Jim Crow feathers up, my aboriginals, feathers up. Jim Crow feather is another one. I'm about to start researching that. It's crazy when you start digging into anything, how much time I got, that you get to find things. So Jim Crow feather is basically seem like Jim Crow amongst the feathers. You know what I mean? Anti-black racism in Indian country. Jim Crow feather lives. You feel me? So we got to get on the Jim Crow feather. Yeah, man. So this thing is getting deep. So right here, I went to the Chattahoochees, and it was talking about the Chattahoochees tribal chief, right? You probably could see it better on this screen. The Chattahoochee tribal chief. So this is Chief Benjamin Paul. I went to Chief Benjamin Paul, and this guy right here is Benjamin Paul, right here. That's him. That's Chief Benjamin Paul. Now, Benjamin Paul, let's go back to that. They say he was a chief between 1903 and 1934. Now, 1903, that was right before the purge of the blacks, right? Right before the purge of the blacks of Chitimacha. And that's him right there. Now, let's go right here. And I went to this Daniel guy because I want to jump in the middle and try to find him. Because in the 80s, right here in the 80s, you could actually see that they had cameras. I believe they had cameras in the 80s. I'm not for sure. But that guy had died of a car crash, and I didn't really feel like looking him up, but you really could look him up and find out if he's black or not. And all right, so let's continue. Now, this right here, let's go back right here. Now, the current from 2017 to right now was Melissa Durant. So I looked her up, and that's who I got. This her right here. So now that I got her, and then I go back to the previous chief, him, it's starting to add up. I'm not seeing black people. I'm seeing the ones that look like who we call the Native American. So I did once believe that we was here first and we populated, and you know what I mean? I was on that belief. But it took the Aboriginals saying fuck Africa and for me to actually dig in and want to go to war with these guys. Now, and going to war with these guys actually led me down this path. I got some more paperwork on these guys. You feel me? But what I want to show you also where they are. So if you ever, they are a group in Louisiana, right here at the foot in the hill of Louisiana, right there. That's the Chattahoochee, and that's where they was considered to be. So right now, I basically could say that if you could be kicked out of your race, I don't think that that's your race. So black folks, and also with the Choctaw, the also the Treaty of 1866 between the Choctaw and Chattahoochee are not black. So we gonna take all the blacks out of that area right there are not aboriginal to that area. So now the rest of these tribes, I'm going to study the rest of these tribes, and pretty much I'm about to expel all the blacks out of Louisiana. And once I get all the blacks out of the South, let me see how much time I got. Once all the blacks is out of the South, what's going to end up happening is that we basically destroy their whole argument. The reason being is the whole West Coast is made up of the South. Man, now you can talk all the BS you want. You're not about to find a black family that don't have no parents, grandparents that come from the South. All of us come from the South and the West Coast. The only difference is we the runaway slaves. You feel me? You know what I'm talking about? We the ones that turned up like, man, fuck this cotton shit. We out here. That was us. You feel me? Same thing with up in New York. Southern roots. We all got them Southern roots. And so now the Aboriginals, for those that don't know, they say that slavery didn't happen. They say that the Mississippi River is really the Nile River. They say that the Phoenicians are from Atlantis, and Atlantis was over here in the Americas. They say that the elephants are originally from the United States. They say no. They say the lions originally from Americas. The camels originally from Americas. It's a lot of different things that they say. Oh, the pyramids originally over here, and the people from over here built pyramids. But Black Power banging, y'all feathers are too soft. I'm on y'all head, African or nothing.